Is the former U.S. ambassador to Georgia. He joins us now live from Highland Park in Illinois. Ambassador, very good to have you here on the program. Even the U.S. now says that it's concerned about what's happening in Georgia. What's your analysis of what's actually going on here?
Well, thanks, first of all, for having me on. This is really, I think, kind of the culmination of a long period of Georgia moving further away from the West and more towards some of the illiberal regimes in the region, most concerningly Russia. And I think this was just the final straw. 80% of Georgians want to join the EU, and this latest move, I think, was just too much.
Was that the same when you were there in the country as ambassador, that people wanted closer ties to the EU?
Yes, absolutely. It's really stayed very consistently at that 80% number in all the public opinion polls, and so I am not surprised that there has been this real outpouring of protest. What I find perhaps a little more surprising is how widespread it is. It's not just in Tbilisi, it's really in all the major towns and cities of Georgia.
Ambassador, let's look at Russia's role here. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, he said today that Russia is not interfering in Georgia's political process, but he did in fact compare what's happening now in Georgia to the Orange Revolution in Ukraine and the events in Maidan, when the then President Viktor Yanukovych suspended Ukraine's preparations for signing an association agreement with the EU. We also heard from Dmitry Medvedev saying Georgia is moving, quote, rapidly along the Ukrainian path into the dark abyss. Do you think this is a fair comparison, that Georgia might be heading in the same direction as Ukraine?
Well, I think what happened in Ukraine in 2013 and 2014 was the result of a lack of dialogue on how the government should conduct its foreign policy. And in that sense, I think that what is happening now is similar to what happened. I truly hope that it doesn't end the same way that it's ended for Ukraine, but I think that it is an analog to what happened when Yanukovych, without any kind of public discussion or debate, decided to turn away from the EU. So it is similar in that respect.
The Georgian Dream Party, which won the recent elections, they've actually been denying these accusations that it's moving closer to Moscow, saying that they're committed to Georgia's EU bid. Do you buy that?
No, I guess in a word, I don't buy it. I judge them by their actions more than their rhetoric. Some of the laws that they've passed are very reminiscent of some Russian laws that were aimed at closing down civil society. They've had very anti-Western, anti-NATO rhetoric. They have canceled some of the programs of cooperation that the Georgian military had with the U.S. military and with NATO. So if you just judge them by their actions, they are not moving towards the EU. They are moving rapidly away from the EU.
All right, Ian C. Kelly, the former U.S. ambassador to Georgia, thank you very much for your time and for joining us here on TOT World.
Thank you for having me.